Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got pro skateboarder Al Garcia. What's up, Al?
Done, guys.
How you doing, bro?
Good, brother. Good. Thanks for having me.
Again, definitely, man. I'm trying to show people my versatility, you know?
Right. That's what it's all about now.
Yeah, man. I'm not just mafia related. We can branch out. I used to delve into skateboarding myself. My brother was a lot better than I was when I was younger, but we're going to get into your story today.
Okay.
And you're an accomplished skateboarder. And
yeah, I like to think so. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 40 years. And when I started, it was like nowhere near is where it is today. I mean, these kids are jumping down these triple, quadruple digit rails, these handrails. It's just unreal.
Yeah, some of it is totally insane compared to when we both were younger, right?
Stuntman skating.
Yeah, like before they didn't even have a lip on the front of the board. I remember when I was younger.
Yeah. We had our nose guards, like with nose guards, skid plates.
Yeah,
because I started in '85.
Yeah. Rail guards, and all that.
You know what's up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I skateboarded with Jeremy Klein, Guy Mariano. Shout out to them
guys. Guy is royalty in skateboarding. That guy is just incredible. It's so amazing to go to skate with him at the time when he was coming up. I remember seeing him as a kid, and he just blew up. He's such a prodigy.
He was on Skate TV.
Yeah, Skate TV with Gabriel Rodriguez, rest in peace, Rudy, all the guys from the band Bones Brigade. They were kind of a new brigade. Yeah, because we had Tony, Tommy, Guerrero, of course, and Caballero and Lance Mountain, all the greats. Rodney, Mullen, Detect Dot.
Oh man, so many. There's so many. The list goes on and on. But so where did your life start?
So it started in Lakewood. Yeah, Lakewood, California. So it's like we were kind of on the outside of Long Beach, LBC, home of Snoop Dogg, Cameron Diaz, got some famous people who came out of LBC. But and Snoop's a huge fan of skateboarders, and skateboarding in general.
Yeah. So what was it like for you growing up as a young man?
I mean, I grew up, it's so crazy. I grew up in this real sort of suburban sort of setting, and it was like a more retired, like I want to say, like doctors that were more senior citizens. And I was like the only skater for a few years in Lakewood. And then it just started taking off like around the mid to late 80s. And then all these groups and all these sort of skateboard cliques started coming over the hill, kind of like thrashing, that old movie Thrashing. You had the Bows, and then you had the Venice, local skaters. And we had the Long Beach skaters started sort of trickling into Lakewood. So it was great. I mean, I just really never thought that skateboarding was as big. So it was kind of, not to come off sounding disingenuous, but it was like I felt like I was almost like the last skateboarder on earth. Little to my surprise, oh my God. I mean, it was just, there was a whole scene building up in Long Beach and everything. But I was like when it was holding down the fort in Lakewood for a while. And, coincidentally, they had the Lakewood skate park in the 70s, which was built. And that lasted only till like around up to 82. So I started 3 years later. I was 3 years shy, man, of frequenting the skate park. I got to go a couple of times with my cousin. She was like one of my first skater girls. And it was amazing. The first time I went, I saw Tony Alba there. So it was just so.
Tony Alba, yeah.
Yeah, man, serendipitous. Because decades later, I'm on the set with him on Lords of Dogtown. And I'm telling
Lords
you
of
the story,
Dogtown. That's
you
an
know?
absolute great
Yeah.
movie, man. Documentary
Oh yeah,
movie.
it's I
Absolutely
would say
great.
it's the best skateboarding film of ever right now. Gleam in the
Gleam in
Cube,
the
close
Cube. Gleam
second.
in the Cube, man. I was just gonna say Gleam in the Cube.
Yeah,
It's just
and Thrashing. Those are the three
yeah.
cult classics, as we like to refer to them in cinema. The three cult classics, and again, we got to remember the '80s. The '80s was such a different time for skateboarding, and everybody was trying to kind of find their footing. It was all vert ramps, backyard half pipes, launch ramps. And I started, it's funny, more in the technical side of things because I was into freestyle.
It
Freestyle
was called
skateboarding was,
freestyle, where you would flip the board and
yeah,
things
it
like
was
that. No ramps,
right.
right? No
Yeah,
ramps
it was
involved.
more, it's synchronized and it was just, you were standing in one place. You didn't really move from point A to point B. So that's, I think, why I was more attracted to street skating later, because
Yeah.
we saw guys like Nodis, Gollins, of course, Mark Gonzalez. I mean, talk about the skate, godfather of skateboarding, Mark Gonzalez. And I just was like, I want to do what they're doing. I want to go ahead and start rolling faster and doing these technical tricks as I'm rolling rather than being stationary. I have my feet sort of glued in one place.
Like, did you have a certain style? Did you use your hand to flip the board and things like that? Because I
I
know there's a
started
lot of different
to,
ways.
yeah, I got into some of those stationary pogo tricks that you see, you're on boards kind of like akin to the BMX flatlanders. You do a cherry picker. So you're staying on the bike, you're bunny hopping. Like while you're staying on the bike, it was very much in proximity with that. It really was very similar, pogos. You can check it out later, look it up, Google it, pogo freestyle. But it's
I'll put a little clip of a video into this interview and people could see what we're talking about. It's pretty wild, the things and tricks that people can pull off.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Jeremy Klein. I got a really good story of Jeremy Klein. So I remember like it was yesterday. It was like an '88. We were skating Los Alamitos, this hip that they had there. It was featured actually in Public Domain with Steve Size, who I'll get to later. It's a huge also inspiration because he's from Long Beach and he worked for Pal Peralta. But long story short, we were there skating, me and a couple of my buddies. And, we were just kind of just trying to get sort of the hang of skating in transition, a parking curb, in a bank. And Jeremy Klein comes with another great skater, amazing skater, good friend of mine, Ron Chapman. He was from Long Beach, wrote for World Industries. Amazing. Ron was just, to this day, I've never seen anyone that looks so natural on a board. I mean, he just has such a smooth style. And so Jeremy's there. Steve Robert, this other skater from Huntington Beach, World Industries, skated a lot with Jason Lee and Ed Templeton and those guys. So we're skating it, and Jeremy just, he's kind of a prankster. He's always kind of had that reputation sort of in the skating industry. And he tries to come, like, it's like a Tasmanian devil behind us, and he tries to do a trick that we're trying, but he does it, and it was just crazy because we're just like, oh man, that's kind of like, that's not cool, And we looked up to him because he wasn't a pro yet, but we knew who he was because he was winning all the local little contests, that they had back then, because it was such a different world back then versus today. So I mean, that's my fondest memory of Jeremy. But
they stand out, right? They stand out of the crowd of kids that are rolling around with their boards.
Yeah, exactly. And and he did. It was an ollie. We were doing like ollie backside. Well, then it was disaster slides, and he was so notorious, of course, doing that like on ledges already, and like on benches. So we were just doing him on the parking curb, and he just does it like nothing. And Ron Chapman, he was kind of like, oh man, come on, don't do that to these guys. These guys, we were groms, that term groms back then, grommets, and just, finding our way and everything. But that's, I just went to that. But Jeremy, later, I remember I mentioned this the story to him, and he just like, really? Oh man, I know. I was like not, I forgot what his exact wordage was, but back then, yeah, I was just always messing around with like skaters and kids and stuff. Yeah, but
So
Jeremy's an icon. He definitely is.
what footed are you? Are you goofy footed or regular footed?
I'm regular. I'm actually regular footed. But it's funny because I find myself, in my career, I was always skiing switch. So I was getting goofy footed. Switch was a big craze in the mid 90s, and it just took over. You talk about the switch king, Guy Mariano. You could never tell or differentiate which really way he skates because he looks so natural, on his board, everything. So
a lot of people don't
yes.
understand that skateboarding is kind of like baseball, like with the way that you hit is the way you skate, kind of like, right? Similar.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I skate, I'm regular footed, so I'm left foot forward, but I find myself skating more right foot forward, skating switch. And sometimes, and I think I've talked to a lot of the new quote unquote Gen Zers, millennial skaters, they seem to think switch is very sort of intimidating, but some switch tricks, believe it or not, are much easier than regular stance tricks for you. I could give you a list. I found myself really sort of gravitating more towards nollie, up in front of a board. So I do know I had nollie tricks. That's what I did. And then, one of my sort of predecessors and sort of, again, mentors, also a good friend, Armando Barajas, who came from a New Deal, days. You probably remember New Deal. Mm-hmm. That was like the big deal back in, 1990 and through like the early 90s. And he was a pioneer of nollie skating, him and Solomon Agaw, of course. And,
I remember they used to do blunts. I remember when this was like innovative stuff people were doing.
Oh, yeah. He was the first one to really do that. Armando really ushered in all of that. And I got to say, and it's just such a great honor to say that he is, one of my lifelong friends, and we've done skateboard companies together, and we've just we're like brothers, him and I, and yeah, he innovated a lot of that. He went ahead and also sort of invented one of my fave tricks, which I kind of, as he said, I basically took it from him, but I took it to levels that he never took it to. It was nollie laser. So nollie laser foot. and those, he was like, that's your trick now, because he did it in a video. He was the first to unveil it in a video. And I don't know, it just felt like such a natural trick for me. And I really sort of unlocked the way you can pop that trick, because a lot of skaters today don't really pop it. They stay on the ground, but there's a secret on how you get it off the ground and get it over obstacles or onto ledges and stuff like that. And you don't see that. So, I have to thank Armando.
They used to ollie over garbage cans back in the day, over park benches. It was
exactly
insane.
Yeah. And Nodis was the first, Nodis Coppice. I mean, the stuff that he was doing in '87, I mean, kids still today aren't doing some of the stuff we didn't even touch on, some of the stuff that he did. I mean, Nodis, you can't really compare skaters to like Nodis and Mark Gonzalez, because those two skaters are so in their own realm, and they really just are. I mean, Rodney, to me, of course, will always be the skate god, but Nodis and Mark are pretty much right there with him. Because Rodney, what he unlocked was all the technical madness and doing all of these tricks, flipping a board in any direction, that he chooses. But with Mark and Nodis, they just took it to already the handrails, and we're talking like late 86, 87, they were doing handrails. I mean, these guys were really at the forefront, and that's why we're so, again, have so much respect in the industry.
So when you were younger, was it your plan to get sponsored and to make a career out of this? Like, what was your goal when you were a young man?
It's funny. I remember I started skating in '85, and what really sort of, again, was instrumental for me to want to start skateboarding, and I said this in past interviews, was Back to the Future. because Back to the Future was really sort of a resurgence. That's when we were able to see kids. I mean, we would see skateboarding for what it truly was. It was about just freedom and just doing as you choose. It was like just a very renegade sort of thing. And that's what really enticed me when I saw Michael J. Fox skating, hanging on the back of these car bumpers. And it just looks so fun and so free. And I just, I never looked back. Once I picked up a board, right after I saw the film open on its opening day back in '85, my mom took me to Kmart and she bought me the same board, but he skated. It was about Terra. You remember it was about Terra?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so it was about Terra board, and it even had a little sticker as seen in Back to the Future on the top. And I mean, those boards sell for a lot on eBay now.
If you were to have an original, oh man.
Oh yeah, I had it for so many years, and then of course, at last you lose things and move when you move, and I ended up leaving it somewhere. I was so bummed because that was my first board.
But back in the day, it was fun to like change the trucks and the wheels and to be involved with all that. You used to have to take the bearings
tape on the board.
Yeah, right. The grip tape. It was like a unique experience.
It was like you were creating, you were just having a little art project on your skateboard.
Yeah.
You were going and putting a sticker on the top. So you put the clear grip tape and it goes over it. It was just, those were the days.
Yeah, they had the clear grip tape, right? They had the clear.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
The clear grip tape, the Schmidt stick rails, and I mean, we were still using, I was using a nose guard probably up until like early, I'm going to say 86, and then I took it off. And then, the rest is history. So with Back to the Future, I knew I really liked this. This was a good, fit for me. It really felt natural skateboarding. And I think a lot of it had to do with also my height. It's a height factor. I was tall. So I had back then already, I excelled at alling because I had what back then they didn't refer to as pop like they do now. It was like hops, if you remember. This guy's got the hops because the origins behind that is basketball. So basketball kind of, again, went at voice into skateboarding, hops, So
I did meet some short guys like Guy Mariano. He's a short guy, right?
Yeah, he's an exception. Okay, like Guy Armando, those guys. They're an exception to. I mean, they are, like I said, some people, and I've had this conversation before. Other skaters are meant to skate. Some have to work a little hard at it and do it, and some, it just comes sort of just natural to them, And they were bred to shred, as Christian Asoy once said. Bred to shred.
Yeah, bred to shred. So what was some of your first experiences going out and skateboarding? Did you have like a crew that you would go out with? Like, what was it like for you guys?
Back then, it was really about only a few. Again, I was only skater for many years in Lakewood. But funny enough, this skater was like, to me, he was the equivalent of, I'd say, like, Paul Rodriguez, today, Eric Costin. He was like a prodigy, an ATV, an all-terrain vehicle. His name was Dandy. He was this Asian kid who had just moved into the area, and he was already like known as being the hometown hero. I had heard stories of him because he was living, I believe, before in Cerritos, which is the city, adjacent, to Lakewood. And he just ended up moving 2 blocks away from me. So, I mean, I had it made. Him and I became, buddies, basically comrades. And we skated every day. So we would just sort of fuel off each other. We would push each other. He excelled in every sort of genre in skateboarding, where I was more already early on. You could see that my strength was more in technical skateboarding because of freestyle. And I remember Dandy once said to me, as I was getting a little frustrated, we were skating this one spot and he was little, so he could go up and do lean methods on this spot. And I'm a bigger guy. So I was doing big ollies, on it and stuff, but I couldn't get like the early grab technique. And he's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter because you have you're built differently, you're designed differently. You need to stick to what you're good at. And he said, you're going to excel more in technical skateboarding.
And that's cool. You guys
don't
have it
worry
that you can
about skating vert ramps and all
bounce
that. Yeah,
bounce it off each other. You know, you can
exactly.
bounce.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I remember we were playing, and I've never said this before, but we might have invented the game of skate because I remember we were playing a game of skate like in early '88, and we had heard the game of skate. It was just something that one day he's like, "Want to play a game of skate?" And that's a big, of course, that's like now it's become the thing in skateboarding, the game of skate. Yeah. I mean, the barracks have really solidified the game of skate. They do battle at the barracks every year, which consists of flat ground. It's a flat ground game of skate. So it was just like, what is this? It's like playing horse basketball, but it's on skateboard. I do a trick, you mimic it, you get a letter. And to this day, and I'm glad we're talking about this now, I think Danny invented the game of skate. Yeah, it's crazy.
Probably did. He probably did.
Yeah, and I mean, and Dandy was just such, like I said, the prodigy. I would say he was more like a Ryan Sheckler. He was probably the equivalent to Ryan Sheckler because,
way before his time, though. Way
exactly,
before Ryan Sheckler's
he was
time.
Channeling Ryan before Ryan it was even birthed.
Yeah.
And he could skate vert ramps. He would go to vert ramps, in La Mirada. He would be doing like these big airs and everything. And I was starting to kind of get a little bit into skating, like doing like little whip, like disaster stalls on vert. But it was just I knew it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. And I again really looked up to Rodney Mullen, because I kind of carried Rodney with me over the street. And as luck would have it, around like '88, he started to transition into street, if you remember Rodney. So Rodney really is the one that set everything off, for modern day technical street skateboarding. I'd say we had a few early pioneers like Mike Valley. I still think Mike deserves a lot of credit. And, he's an East Coast powerhouse, Mike Valley. I mean,
yeah, his
Mike
name's synonymous.
Yeah, the guy is so multi-talented. I love Mike. And Mike is like always one of my favorite skaters, my idols.
Yeah, my brother was heavily involved in it. He was sponsored and everything, but I just kept trying and trying. I just wasn't good enough, man. I wanted to do it though.
It was not easy. It was not an easy road, especially to take it and adapt to street. Because again, I was so used to being so technically inclined on my board. So when I would go to street class, I'd be like, well, okay, I'm trying to do like a kickflip on this big bank, this huge bank when they're doing like airs and stuff. And it was just, then it started to kind of make more sense. And I started to sort of meld these tricks into more street. So I skate a bench. I would do an ollie axle stall and then do like a gazelle out of it and stuff like that. Stuff like Ray Barbie, was doing. Ray Barbie from a pound. Yeah, another one who was very much a flat ground enthusiast. So I really looked up to Ray, Jason Lee, the great Jason Lee, Hollywood. Now Jason Lee Earl. He was the one that really. I don't want to say that he invented the 360 kickflip, but he was the one that took it burst to the streets, where Rodney had it wired and had it down, on freestyle boards, but he took it to the next level for sure, Jason Lee, which he's credited for. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So back in the day, a lot of people didn't think that skateboarding would last as long as it has, right? They used to kick people out of places. You used to not be able to skateboard. They would come with like security guards and write summons for people to go to court. I remember all this stuff happening.
We were vandals, pretty much. We looked upon as vandals, as I've said before. Yeah, it's all like.
So what was your experience early on? What was your experience early on with skateboarding? Did you have a lot of pushback from your local people? Did you have pushback?
Yes, I did. But again, it's funny to say, in Lakewood, everyone knew everyone. It wasn't like we were just kind of, okay, oh, we go to a store, oh, there's Al, our neighbor, we go on a skateboard. I mean, the police, same thing. I started doing some police, sheriffs in town, because it was such a small sort of Humboldt sort of town. And it wasn't until probably the 90s, then it got out of hand. And then there were more skateboarders, again, that migrated, as I said, from Long Beach to Lakewood, because we had this really legendary skateboard spot. I'll get to this later, AT&T, which in some ways was sort of like the new Lakewood skate park that we had in the 70s. Well, this is now a street spot that really sort of, I want to say, turned Lakewood into this iconic, skateboarding landmark.
So it's a skate park.
Oh no, it was a AT&T, like AT&T was an abandoned AT&T building, and they had curbs. They had a little mani pad there. I mean, it was pretty amazing for the times, because you have to remember, we didn't have skate parks. We were not introduced to skate parks really, but skate parks had already closed down around 82, 83. I mean, Pipeline, Upland, we would go there. I frequented Upland Pipeline a few times, like 87, 88. I still have my card. It's funny, my Pipeline card. And then we're talking about Salva, Lord Salva and Chris Miller, all those guys. We're talking about the real skateboarding, heroes, the legends, Jeff Grosso, rest in peace. They would skate, Pipeline, because again, that was, I think, the beauty to skateboarding back then, is we were not sort of segregated into one sort of genre. We cross-sectored into different, it was all about experimentation. So we would go and try to skate a pool, and if it didn't work, it didn't work. If we didn't pick it up, then we tried to skate a vert ramp. It was versus today, all the skaters, they're honed in on a style. We do have a few that can skate everything, but it's becoming much, I would say, more rare in skateboarding because of social media. I know a lot of these kids, they just want to get discovered, and they want to do the craziest trick, post on it, and get sponsored and go pro. That's how it works now.